What's good, boys? Today's video is going to be on fair value gaps. All right, so first, let's go ahead and talk about what a fair value gap is. Okay, so essentially, a fair value gap is an imbalance within the market. Okay, so market moves too fast. So a move is made that is too fast for buyers and sellers to place their orders. Okay, making it an imbalance. Okay, that means that we miss those orders and we want to retrace back to those orders so market can fill in more orders, which is literally just liquidity. So an imbalance is essentially a draw on liquidity. So that's really what an imbalance is, and a fair value gap is the biggest and main type of main type of imbalance. There are others, but you'll see those in those videos later on. Fair value gap is like the intro one. So, what does a fair value gap look like? All right, so it's a 3 candlestick pattern. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll just go straight into it and talk about it because these are fairly easy to spot. Right. So for a bullish one, okay, it's a 3 candlestick pattern. So we have a fair value gap here, right? Now, 3 candlestick pattern. So this is the first candle, this is the second candle, and this is the third candle, right? So it would be if it's a bullish one, as you can see, we're bullish. It would be to the top of the first wick, okay, to the bottom of the third wick, okay? Bang. This is our fair value gap, okay? Now, what is the point in a fair value gap? Okay, the point in a fair value gap is, as I said, it's a draw on liquidity, right? So what does that mean? That means price is going to come back to the fair value gap, okay? And we could respect the fair value gap and get a candle close outside of it, and then you can assume that we are going to continue higher, okay? So as you can see here, this is our bullish fair value gap, right? We come down, we fill in this fair value gap with this, right? You can see we have a wick through it, right? With that candlestick. And then we see a candle close outside saying it's bullish, right? That we are respecting this fair value gap. So you can assume we are continuing higher, which we do for a little bit. Let's go ahead and find another example. This is a perfect example of what I want to talk about. Now, this is another fair value gap, right? You can see price comes down, right? We fill it, right, with these wicks. Now, if we got a candle close under these, that's a different story. That's an inverse fair value gap, which there's another video on that, right? But since we did not get a candle close under these, we are respecting this fair value gap. If it's wicks, we are respecting. It's fine. But if we get a candle close under, we are invalidating, which there's another video on that, which is just inverse fair value gaps. So since we only wicked all the way through this, right, and you see, what do we see? We see a candle close outside of it. So we're seeing bullish order flow outside after respecting this fair value gap. You can assume price is going to continue higher. Enter off that, stop loss at the bottom of the fair value gap because that was the reason you entered. Take profit, most recent high. Or you could just target if you want to. No, that's a shitty risk to reward, but target most recent high, 3.3 RR, just like that. Let's find a few more. All right, this not market. All right. Let me find I want to find a better one. Now remember, price is going to retrace into these fair value gaps, right? So here's a good example of what I mean by respecting. Okay, so we can see this is a bearish fair value gap, right? So if it's a bearish one, we're doing to the bottom of the first wick to the top of the third wick, right? So this would be our fair value gap. You can see we tap into it, we get a really good fill in, right? And we start seeing selling pressure. Where would you enter assuming it's going to continue lower? Would you enter on this candle or even this candle? Because you can see we have a wick outside of this fair value gap, right? No, you have to get a candle close outside of it to respect the fair value gap, right? So we get a good fill, right? It looks like we're about to invalidate, or sorry, it looks like we're about to respect it, right? Because we get this wick under, but no, it has to be a candle close underneath. So we tap in, we start seeing selling pressure out with this candlestick because we get a candle close outside. So now with this candle, you can assume price is going to go continue lower. Bang. The top of the fair value gap would have been a really extended stop loss. So you could just do this swing high, take profit, most recent low. But what I would really suggest is, if you remember, fair value gaps are also a draw on liquidity, right? So what does that mean? That means that price is going to go to these draws on liquidity, and you can have them as targets for your take profits. You can see here we have this pre-market move up at 8:30. Clearly 8:30 means it was probably news. So since this is a bullish fair value gap, we have the top of the first wick to the bottom of the third wick. So this is our fair value gap. Okay. We know fair value gaps are a draw on liquidity, right? We know that price is going to, oh, this is the opposite direction. We know that price is going to retrace back to these fair value gaps, right? Because as we said, it's a draw on liquidity. Price wants to come back to these imbalances and balance the market, or come back to these inefficiencies and make the market move more efficient. Okay, so where would take profit 1 be? This draw on liquidity. And where would take profit 2 be? Obviously, we have this fair value gap pre-market. Bang. You see? And what happens? We get a perfect fill, right? Now, what could you do after that? You catch that trade. What happens next? We get a fill. We see a candle close outside. Clearly with this candle, we close outside the fair value gap. Bang. Then you can enter off that. Stop loss, you could put at the most recent low. And then what could you target? Most recent high, right? And you could even do right here, this high. That would have got hit too. And then this one would have not. But to just keep it at the most recent high or swing high, right? So that's just a little bit of how you could play off them. We'll go ahead and do a couple more. All right, so you can see here. All right, so you can see here we have this fair value gap, right? This is a bearish fair value gap. So what would it be? 3 candlestick pattern. This is the first candlestick. So the bottom of the first wick, right, to the top of the third wick. So this is our fair value gap, right? Now, this is our fair value gap. What can we see? We can see price retrace into it. We get a wick inside, right? We get a candle close outside with this candlestick, right? What does that mean? You can assume price is going to continue lower. Bang, enter off there, stop loss at the top of the fair value gap. And what could you enter? This draw on liquidity right here. And you would have smacked everything in so fast. 6 RR. Let's do one more. Let me show you, like this is, let me show you how, like this is not a fair value gap, right? You can see here that the top of the first wick and the bottom of the first wick, there is no gap here. Right, you can see that we did not form no gaps. So there's no fair value gap all within the sequence, okay? We do have one clearly right here, right? Top of the first wick to the bottom of the third wick right there. And what do you see? You see a tap into it with this candlestick, and then we see a candle close out, so you can assume price goes higher, and we do for a little bit. Remember, these confluences, it's just one confluence. You should never enter a trade based on one confluence. So yes, it's not going to work 100% of the time. If it did, everyone and their mom would be a millionaire by now, right? So you have to pair, this is just one confluence, and you have to pair this with other confluences as well. And another thing to note is this works on every time frame. Okay, so let's go ahead and work on the hourly. Every confluence I talk about works on every single time frame. Let's go ahead and find an example on the hourly, so y'all boys see what I'm talking about. Bang. So you can see pre-market right here, we have this move up, right? So we have this fat fair value gap. Since this is a bullish one, top of the first wick to the bottom of the third wick, right? Let's say we're right up here, right? What could you have done this day, right? Market opens right here. Easiest day of your life. You know fair value gaps are a draw on liquidity, right? Bang. wherever you would have entered off of with more confluence, of course. Stop loss at the highs or whatever the reason you entered, bang. You see what I'm saying? And so you can use I personally also use imbalances as a tool to find my daily bias, right? So I use fair value gaps to help me find my daily bias. But remember, if we were to catch this trade, as you can see, we respected this fair value gap, right? So I don't know how far in we're in this fair value gap we are going to fill, but I do know we are going to fill it, right? So what does that mean? Where would I put my take profit, right? If we know, like, we don't know how far in we're going to fill into this fair value gap, right? We just talked about that. So why would I put my take profit at the 50% mark? I don't know if we're going to fill 50%. Why would I put it at the 100? I don't know if we're going to fill all of it, right? I don't know. But I do know we are going to retrace. So always have your take profit be the top of the fair value gap, because we do know we are going to come back into this gap, in which we obviously did. And then what can you do after that, right? We get a tap in, right? You see a candle close outside. What does that mean? Now you can assume price is going to continue higher. Enter somewhere here. Now this would be a really extended stop loss, so you probably would want to put your stop loss right here at the most recent low. And then now you can assume, since we respected this fair value gap, you can assume price is going to continue higher, take profit most recent high, and we hit it later on next day, but clearly we do. Let's do one more. So these do work on the every single time frame, right? So you can use this as a daily buy, help you find your daily bias, right? It can help you help you find take profits. And basically it's a goated as fuck confluence, right? Like you can even see right here, right? Fair value gap. This is days away, right? But if I'm all the way down here, I do know, and I know for certainty, in my opinion, because I really do like fair value gaps, I know for certainty that at some point we are going to retrace here, right? Now, I wouldn't, if we were all the way down here, I wouldn't be like, okay, I'm 100% bullish all the way to this fair value gap. Like, be realistic. This is really overextended. We're never going to make this big ass move in one fucking day, right? Now, if we were like right here, right? Clearly, this is not overextended, right? Clearly that this is 100% we could fill this, right? So if we were around here, like this day right here, 100% my bias would be bullish, 100%. Right? Because it's clear that this is no longer overextended. Like down here, I know down here we are going to fill this, right? But since I'm a day trader, right, not a swing trader, even though I know we are going to fill this, I clearly can't have my bias be bullish just because I see this, right? Like, let's say it was this day, right? And I see this fair value gap all the way up here. I'm like, yeah, we're bullish as fuck, right? We have this fair value gap all the way up here. That's not how it works. Like, it's clear. This is really overextended. This is too much of a move up in one day to make, right? And clearly, you would have got stopped out that day because we went, for the most part, I don't know, we were low-key just down and up. But be realistic. This is really overextended, right? Now, even this day, well, clearly this was the very end of the day. So, and then this was not during market open, so you wouldn't be trading during this time. But right here, as soon as like next day, you can assume this is no longer overextended. We can have this be a tool to help us find our daily buys. Now remember, see, we did get a candle close. Like, you don't know what's really going to happen when we are going to the fair value gap, right? But you do know we are going to fill it for sure. So for example, this day market opens with more confluence, right? You don't ever trade just with the fair value gap. Could have just caught this, right? You could have scaled down, find an actual retrace and a better entry. Entry probably would have been like somewhere. It doesn't matter, but you get the point. Let's do one more. Let's do the daily. And then we'll call it a day. And here's a perfect example. Bang. Have this fair value gap right here. Bullish. So top of the first wick to the bottom of the third wick. Bang. We have a perfect tap in. You see buying pressure out. You can assume price goes higher. Kind of chop work, but wow. You would have to put your stop loss at like a 15-minute high. I have no idea. But you do see that, well, this is straight chop work, but at some point you would hit your trade. Oh, no, you would have got stopped out on this day. But this was definitely news. Now, when you see this type of gap, right, This is where you really need to be careful. Remember what is the meaning of a fair value gap, right? So like this would be a hard definition. Like some people would be like, oh yeah, this is our fair value gap. Or shit. I don't know. People might think that. I don't know what the fuck people think, but I know they're fucking tripping. All right. You can see here. So if we were to have a fair value gap, it's a 3 candlestick pattern. So this would be candle 1, candle 2, candle 3, right? You can see that there is no gap between candle 1 and candle 3. So this is not, there is no gap here. Okay. Let's find it. Okay, this is a much better example. You can see here, fat fair value gap, bullish, so top of the first wick to the bottom of the third wick. Boom, we come down, we see a perfect fill. We see a candle close outside the fair value gap with this right here. Bang, enter. Obviously, this is the daily time frame. Like, come on, our stop. Like this would just help us find our daily bias, and clearly could target most recent high, and you can see, right? So that's really it about fair value gaps. Really good tool for imbalances, really good for everything. I really do recommend them. They're everywhere. Like I'm literally looking at this chart right now. Oh, I had talked about this right here. You see we tap in and see buying pressure out. But so you can remember we are going to retrace. We are going to retrace into these fair value gaps. And we'll retrace and respect if we see a candle close outside. And then with that confluence, you can assume price is going to continue higher. However, remember, never enter a trade just off a fair value gap. You need to have more confluences, not just that. But that should be it. I hope that was clear and shit. And that shit was still confusing, just let me know. And yeah, text me. I got y'all, boys. Catch y'all.